Thank you so much for staying with us on the program. And this first leg of the conversation has to do with, international collaborations and, institutions of the state taking decisive action. In this case, not just Nigeria, especially when you talk about the war against terror, its financing, insurgency, and the issue around sovereignty. And because it has been reported that a bill before the United States Congress has proposed sanctions, targeted sanctions, including visa bans and asset freezes against individuals and groups accused of involvement in religious freedom violations in Nigeria. The proposed legislation, titled the Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026, was introduced on Tuesday by U.S. Congressman Rabiu Moore. He's a Republican from West Virginia and co-sponsored by Rep. Chris Smith, chair of the House Foreign Affairs Africa Subcommittee. The bill specifically names former Kano State Governor, and this is where it gets interesting. The bill specifically names a former Kano State Governor, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, Fulani ethnic nomad militias and associations such as the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MAGBAN, and Miyetti Allah Katore as entities to be considered for sanctions. And according to the text of the bill, the U.S. Department of State and Treasury would be directed to impose targeted sanctions under the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act on individuals or groups deemed responsible for religious freedom violations. And these sanctions could include visa restrictions and asset freezes. And the legislation also calls on the U.S. Secretary of State to determine whether certain Fulani militias operating in Nigeria meet the criteria for designation as foreign terrorist organizations under the U.S. In addition to punitive measures, the bill proposes increased humanitarian assistance to affected communities in Nigeria's Middle Belt. It recommends the aid to be co-funded by the Nigerian government and delivered through trusted faith-based and non-government organizations operating in the region. These are some of the things we are getting at this time, especially from the U.S. Congress, where this bill is before them. And, they have gone categorical by mentioning names, individuals, organizations that they feel should be prescribed and be tagged terrorist organizations, especially by the U.S. Congress. We are with us today somebody we have spoken to on this matter so many times about the issue of security, the response of the state on this matter, antecedents, and where we are right now. Dr. Katch Ononuju is the DG at the Heritage Center. He's a politician, but much more, he's a public affairs analyst. Dr. Katch, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right.
It's a glorious morning today.
Yeah, this is the latest as far as the intervention of the U.S. is concerned on this matter. Two congressmen brought out this bill, and of course you've heard and you have seen, and I'm sure you have followed, because there was a similar proposal like that in November last year. And some of them, including Rabiu Moore, has even traveled down to Nigeria a couple of times with other persons to see for themselves, especially the Benue Basin, what is going on right now. But it becomes more interesting, like a high-profile individual, like, former governor and a former senator, a former minister, a politician of note like Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso's name is being mentioned in this regard. What do you think is going on here? Because it's a targeted kind of initiative by the U.S. Congress.
Well, this is known. Kwankwaso's name was added because Kwankwaso was one of the frontline politicians who did initiate the Sharia. During the Sharia riots against President Obasanjo, some 12 states did embrace Sharia. And that's where Kwankwaso came in. And he came in because the minute the Americans started speaking about the issues in Nigeria and Sharia being a basis for hate and a platform for hate, Kwankwaso started speaking. So that's when they quickly wrote his name down. There were people who were noisy about Americans, Asare Dokubo, Femi Fani Kayode. But the minute they wrote Kwankwaso's name, everyone else kept quiet, knowing very well that once you become visible in attacking the Americans, they will remember you and the roles you have played. And then they went forward to list the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria. Those were the organizations that were coming on television to try to deceive the public that what we were having was farmers' headers crisis, paving the way for the side and coming to lie to the public. So the Miyetti Allah Cattle Hori itself, led by Abdullahi Bello Bodejo, whose photo you can see now with his second in command, Saleh. These people were real on the ground. They set up militias and they were dragging these militias into Benue State from their staging post in Nasarawa. The Cattle Hori were a thorn in the flesh of the people of Benue State. That's why you're now seeing the recent charges against the governor of Bauchi State, who funded Cattle Hori and the terrorism that they unleashed against the people of the Benue Valley. So everybody who was doing what they were doing under Buhari were well known. This you're seeing now are intelligence-based reactions by the U.S. Congress. We welcome it, and we ask that more names be added. Of course, it was by adding the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association, where that's how the Sultan came in, being their grand patron. And all of them are in on this. Nobody is free. Everyone who did participate in the genocide, everyone who came on television to try to lie to the people, because when you are also raising money and resources and trying to deny the genocide, you are also culpable in this issue. So those who are denying the genocide, those who are promoting the genocide, those who are in one way or the other lying on TV that no, this is it is climate change based, it is farmers' headers issues, whereas you know very well that there is a properly visible, manifested plot to seize land violently from indigenous people, and the strategy for seizing this land is the large industrial scale ethnic cleansing campaign premised on genocidal attacks against these indigenous persons, which breeds a lot of internally displaced persons who are now headed by the government into a concentration camp. That's in that way the government itself becomes complicit. Because what the law expects is if the government sees that people are being killed and then others being driven from their places of abode, their ancestral lands being taken, and instead of the government going into action to arrest the people doing this thing, the government condones it by even organizing a ground that those people come and stay on that ground, and you call it internally displaced persons gathering place, a concentration camp, and you won't do anything against the people who are committing these killings, committing this removal of persons from their land, for the land to be taken. That's how the government became complicit in the calculations of the U.S. government.
All right, Dr. Katch, I'd like to ask you, in late November, Donald Trump declared this country a country of particular concern. he also said there was Christian persecution, you know, right there in Nigeria, and the Nigerian government overly, you know, have denied this particular claim. And here is a proposed bill again about, you know, Kwankwaso, Miyetti Allah, all of these persons that were named, being named as, you know, being fingered in all of these and asking for, the bill is asking for a visa ban, freezing of assets and all of that. Do you think that this bill should fly, especially with the fact that Nigeria, and if this bill is on the premise that this is on religious, persecution on religious freedom or religious, on Christians particularly, should this bill fly, especially with Nigeria, saying that Nigeria has no record of religious persecution?
The bill should fly. The things the government says are nothing, they're inconsequential. The Nigerian government is historically known for its pathological denial of things like this. So that's a history of denial, even in the face of active, visible actions. It's not to be countenanced in these actions. The Nigerian government's history of denials, notwithstanding, it doesn't really make a sense. So if you like spend $9 million to get people to go and deny what has already been established through fact and intelligence gatherings, nobody will take you seriously. So when you pay people to go and start denying what is visible to the eyes, you saw it when Nigerian government denied. That was the first in line of behavior they did. So we also see it as part of the takia. When you see the Fulani denying, is the takia. That's their way, deceit. And that's why the Americans now sent for the very last time a congressional fact-finding delegation which came to Nigeria and had plots of going to Benue, Plateau, and Kaduna, but got only to Benue, because when they got to Benue, they saw more than 600,000 Nigerians all assembled in a concentration camp with their lands taken off them and foreign Fulanis now occupying their villages. The Americans quickly knew there was no need probing further since they have enough evidence from just one visit. And that was how they came back to Abuja and then traveled back to the United States the next day with enough evidence to go tell President Trump that what was seen in Nigeria was far worse than what was reported to them before they started coming to Nigeria. And that's how these things work. So the fact that Nigeria could raise money to go and pay people to go and deny that what has been seen, captured in camera, and cross-referenced with a congressional delegation visit, and you still tell them it's not true, they don't take you seriously. They actually see your behavior as offense, trying to disrupt a fact-finding delegation. And they went on to put these things out, and we support them 100%. So it has got into the issue of a battle of narratives. Of course, the truth cannot be narrated away through falsehood. So what you say, Nigerian government denial does not constitute a fact. All right, denial is just an action. It's of no consequence. It's just a foolish opinion which doesn't hold any water in international discourse.
All right, Dr. Katch, let's look at this. Ever since the December 25 airstrikes on a particular part of Nigeria that we've had by the U.S., this sudden marriage between Nigeria and the U.S. on security issues, and especially as touching this issue of Christian persecution right here, this marriage, is it working? Many Nigerians are of the opinion that after that particular action, the airstrikes, insecurity issues seem to have been on the increase. These militias, the terrorist operations, I mean, all of these things, the activities are on the rise. We've not really been able to really nip this insecurity in the bud. We've not had that, capture. We're still having lots of uprisings here and there. So would you say that this is working? And if this is the U.S., is it time they removed their hands from our business?
What you're trying to describe is how endemic the killings are. That's what you're trying to describe.
Yeah.
That despite the targeted U.S. action against a perceived operational location of these terrorist organizations in Sokoto on Christmas Day, you're explaining that the activities of this terrorists has been on the rise. Yes. What you're trying to describe is the failure of government in Nigeria to actually protect the people. So despite the U.S. actions, the militias who are responsible for the killings upgraded their actions and in anger started killing people left and right. But that's what the problem is. That is the reason for the U.S. intervention. Because of the inability of the Nigerian authorities to arrest these things you now describe as an escalation in the killing spree. And the U.S. have accordingly brought in its troops, sent boots to the grounds on Nigerian soil, that since the Nigerian government cannot help to secure the lives and property of Nigerian citizens, and in this case, Christians, as you saw Christians being killed in Kwara State, being killed in Benue State, being killed in Taraba State, being killed in Plateau State, and the government cannot do anything. So it just looks as if the government is complicit in what's going on. Of course they are, because you saw in the places where people are being attacked, even when there is actionable intelligence and the government tries to send security people to forestall such occurrences based on the intelligence, you still see people inside the government who act to try to say nobody should stop the terrorists. And that's why you saw the issues in Kebbi, where people were stationed to prevent the attack on the school, but there were instructions withdrawing those people so that the attackers can come and do their work. That tells you there are people inside the command and chain instructive levels of government who are against the arresting of these killings. So you saw there was an inquiry, we were told, into why people were withdrawn from the school in Kebbi so that the kidnappers to come and kidnap. But we never saw any action from government. We never heard that they caught the people who gave the instructions, and that meant the people might have been so highly placed that nobody could stop them. And that now tells you about the divisions in government. It is not everybody in government that is for stopping the killings. There are people in government who give reasons and justify the actions by the Fulani terrorist organizations. And that's why you saw the U.S. government went ahead to list the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association, who deceived Nigerians, pretending like they are not part of it, and we were campaigning that they should be held as terrorist organization, including their leaders.
All right.
And that's why you saw the Sultan also himself he was so afraid he went into hiding because he, by vicarious responsibility accounting, seem down to also be complicit.
All right, Doctor.
Since organizations that he was heading are now seen to be complicit in the terrorism.
All right. I have 3 questions for you. And number 1 is this. The name Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso is a big name in the northern Nigeria, in Nigerian politics, and all of those things. Oh, yes, he has his belief of, whatever he did with Sharia while he was in government and all of those things. But other persons will say there is a certain former governor, a Nigerian senator, Sani Yerima from Zamfara State, who was more like the poster boy for whatever Sharia represents, instituted it, in Zamfara State, and he was very vocal. It was like the representation of that particular movement and ideology and that law, in Nigeria at the time. How come a Yerima hasn't been mentioned and it's a Kwankwaso that has been mentioned? That's my first question.
Yerima's name is also listed because all the 12 governors who did start Sharia are as guilty as Kwankwaso. Kwankwaso's name is only put there as a poster name because it was Kwankwaso who started challenging the Americans after President Trump made his speech. So if you could commit a crime and still come to the public to try to deny it and talk down on those who are complaining, you could be listed as a poster child of that particular crime. That's why Kwankwaso was listed. And after he was listed, he has never spoken again publicly. After he was listed, people like Asari Dokubode went underground. Fanika, all of them went underground. If you check in Nigeria today, nobody is talking against the American comment because they know the minute they talk, Americans will gain visibility of their face, list them down. So, yeah, of course, you've seen that President Tinubu have not been able to have a one-on-one conversation with President Trump since this problem started. And Tinubu himself does not want to incur the wrath of the Americans. That's why he's also kept away, because you can say one thing to President Trump and the Americans could interpret it in a different fashion and you become in deeper trouble.
All right.
And as Senate President said, Americans are on everybody's neck.
Right.
Because we are complicit. We as a society are complicit. We kept quiet. We did nothing. Even when the world found out that we were committing far more genocide than Israelis were doing, we still had the audacity, as shown by the vice president, to go to New York and be castigating Israel for its actions in the occupied territory, whereas in Nigeria, we were keeping quiet and we were complicit in a genocide against Christians.
Yeah, Dr.
That's
Katch,
why these people came.
Yeah, let me come in with the other follow-up. The last killing, reported killing in Kwara State happened in Woro local government, Woro community, Kayama local government. And, by investigations, by the virtue of people that are in that place, in that particular community, they are mostly Muslims. Now, the one that happened in Iruku, in Kwara State, they are predominantly Christian. In fact, those guys were picked up in a church, the kidnapping and all of those things. But this one in Kayama happened in a predominantly Muslim community. And those persons, the survivors said, those guys were there and they tried to introduce a strange Islamic doctrine to them, in which maybe some of them rejected, far worse than what they were used to, the conventional Islamic teachings and hadith and all of those things. So, as it happened in Eruku, they were kidnapped in a church, a couple of killings. It happened in a Muslim-dominated area in Kayama, in the same Kwara State as well. So, will you still be right to say these are targeted killings against Christians? Because 170 people killed in Kayama local government are predominantly verifiable Muslims. How do we connect that nexus?
It doesn't mean nothing. Your words don't catch no flame. Because
It's the reality, not my words. Is what happened.
Let me help you. I will help you and explain how it works.
Okay.
In these killings, the fundamentalists are known to also have killed Hausas. They've killed Hausas in Katsina, they've killed Hausas in Sokoto, they've killed Hausas also in Zamfara State. These are Muslims that are considered not hardcore enough. These are Muslims who are considered expendable. These are collateral damages. It does not vitiate the fact that the people doing this, don't forget, they are not Nigerians. A lot of those doing these killings are normally fundamentalists who are organized by Nigerian politicians. They come in and they carry out these killings. So they don't really know who is who. Theirs is they are just told, clear this up. And those people you see being killed was to make road for the march towards Oyo. So the fact that we have an incompetent government just shows you that the government is incompetent. So it tells you whether you're a Muslim or you're a Christian, your life is not safe with an incompetent government in place. Some of you Muslims could become collateral damage when you keep quiet, because if you notice, you don't see Muslims criticizing what is going on. Most Nigerian Muslims keep quiet. You will never see Nigerian Muslims publicly. I know this for sure.
Some of them
I went
do.
to do interview.
Some of them do.
I'm telling you this, I did interview in Abuja. Last weekend, I was speaking to Muslims. I was asking Yoruba Muslims about the actions in Waro. Yoruba Muslims will not criticize the actions. They recognize what happened, but they don't want to talk. They told me they were just talking, they want to go and do their alawala, do their ablution. But the Christians amongst them who are Yorubas, Benga and others, they were very willing to criticize what was going on. That told me a thing. These people I was with, they are not Fulani, they are Yoruba, but they are Yoruba Muslims. And we were in Abuja, and they refused to criticize what was going on. And I asked myself, is it out of fear, or did they think this is something for all of us good, all of us Muslims? This will bring us advantage so that we can own this country alone. But that was a very strong teaching moment for me. I saw Yoruba Christians condemn it, but Yoruba Muslims would not condemn it. And this is in Abuja. And that told me something. I went to a different location to speak to these people before they were going to mosque. Yoruba Christians were willing to condemn it. Yoruba Muslims kept quiet.
All right.
And I asked myself, are they afraid? Are they afraid?
Yeah, Dr. Katch, let me
were they told in the mosque, don't criticize what's going on?
All right.
Or they were told not to say anything about this issue?
Let me add this.
For me, was teaching. Right.
Now, around here, thank God you said that survey was done in Abuja, but around here, the 6 southern parts, the 6 southern states of the Southwest, it has been on every radio programs, feedback to TV programs, everybody has been talking about the issue, condemning it, because it's about human life. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Muslim or you are atheist or you are non-believer or you're whatever, every life is precious to God. That's the belief, actually. So many persons have condemned it in his right action. In that nefarious act, actually. But one important question is this. Let's talk about the institution of the state. The U.S. Congress seems to be playing lead on this matter, Dr. Katch. Mike Riley, Ted Moore, all of those guys. Why do you think the Nigerian Senate, that here, not the Nigerian Senate, the Nigerian National Assembly, just pockets of, committee oversight and all of those things, when there is killing, you see them go there, visit, they do half-mast and all of those things, the flag and couple of, rhetorics here and there. It's something of concern to so many persons that why will it look like the U.S. Congress is so much interested than the Nigerian Parliament? Why are they not playing lead on this matter for whatever they think is happening we are not seeing that urgency. And will you say it's because of the pronunciation of these genocide or targeted killings against Christians? Because whatever Mike Riley, Ted Moore, all of those guys have been doing, they have been using one word consecutively, attacks against Christians. Do you think that's what is fueling their passion and their energy in what they are doing than the Nigerian National Assembly playing lead? Instead of collaborating, it seems the Nigerian state were just cooperating. What do you think is that?
You're right. The people in Nigeria, out of the absence of courage, don't want to offend the Nigerian government. The Nigerian National Assembly with Christians and Muslims, that's the same thing I'm telling you. In the Nigerian National Assembly, there are Christians and there are Muslims. Why are the Muslims keeping quiet? Even the Yoruba Muslims, how many of them have spoken in the National Assembly? They don't want to offend the government because they think that the government wants to have these things hidden. The government doesn't want these things spoken honestly about openly, so it doesn't get embarrassed due to its incompetence in calibrating a response to this particular Fulani killings. Maybe it doesn't want to offend the Fulani elite because he seeks votes from them and understanding and support from them going into the 2027 election. And the politicians understanding this do not want to offend anybody, even if you know that the person organizes his own persons to try and kill your people in your villages and take over their land, and you're still keeping quiet. That is the reasons why on this particular station, the Nigerian government would pay people to come and argue against what I'm saying, to say, no, this. Denials don't make it right. Denials simply see you're trying to waste energy to trying to cover the truth, and it's not going to work. So whatever you people say, what we know is that the world is right now doing the right thing. The world is right now moving in the right direction in terms of the Nigerian crisis. The world has finally listened. The world knows that there is a clampdown in Nigeria, but on people like me who are now speaking the truth to you, telling you that the genocide is real and it's happening, and telling you that the Nigerian government actually pays people to go and lie, as you've seen, paying people $9 million in America to go and say that what is going on in Nigeria is not going on in Nigeria.
I'm almost, when you said the Nigerian government pays people to come and lie on this station, I don't know about that. We from this end would not entertain anything like that. So trust us to be as fair. The way we are fair to you is the way we are fair with people with divergent opinions on these matters. So if the Nigerian state or anybody is doing something, definitely not on collaboration, with this station. We say it as it is. Stop it.
All right, Doctor. This particular bill now, it's stemming from the fact that I like to take it from the report itself right here, where it said that the sanctions now, the bill allows that the U.S. take sanctions on Nigeria right there, and such that there will be punitive measures as well. It says, I'm trying to get that particular place right there. It says please pardon me. It says the bill specifically mentioned, right, the proposed legislation titled the Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026 was introduced on Tuesday by the U.S. congressman there. All right, so in addition to punitive measures, the bill proposes increased humanitarian assistance to affected communities in Nigeria's Middle Belt. It recommends that aid be co-funded by the Nigerian government and delivered through trusted faith-based and non-governmental organizations operation in Nigeria. I'm still trying to get that part. So it said here, yes, this is it. So the Nigerian government, it said the designation allows the U.S. government to take policy actions, including sanctions against countries accused of tolerating or engaging in such violations. And the Nigerian government has rejected the characterization of the crisis as a religious war, insisting that the country's security challenges are complex and driven by multiple factors, including banditry, terrorism, and competition over land and resources. I would like to ask you that this designation, because it allows the U.S. government to take policy actions, including sanctions, do you think that that's why the Nigerian government is really, vocal against or rejecting this particular characterization? Do you think that that's the problem, or the true picture of things is that there is really no Christian persecution in Nigeria?
Well, you need to understand Nigeria government and its way. Since the government was captured by a Muslim minority and they imposed the Muslim ticket, that in itself is also religious violence. Islam does not accept equality, has never done, and will never accept equality. It will always want to take everything for itself and not recognize the people beside them. So by the Nigerian government doing things like Muslim ticket, that in itself is religious violence. There's nowhere the Nigerian government is not guilty of these particular issues. Now, the characterization of that accusation, of course, most of the people in the Nigerian government are guilty of these particular things being said by the U.S. Congress. And that's why some of them might actually want to fight the characterization, and try to speak up against the characterization. But that is a well-honed, well-thought-after coinage of words to now form that characterization which you've seen. And no matter how they deny it, the only thing that can actually change it is admitting the problem and then changing your behavior and your responses to such crisis, not coming to the public to be denying it. And as you're denying it, more are happening, as you rightly described, an escalation occurs. So the fact that you deny it, you say, you're told, there were too many accidents, your drivers are driving recklessly, they're killing people. You say that's not true. But you're not putting the things in place to arrest such reckless driving behavior by drivers who are linked to your government. And they are hitting people, smashing people with their vehicles. Instead of you to stop them from such behavior, you're busy saying, no such thing happens. There are no rough drivers here. There are no crazy drivers. But the crazy drivers are all over the place. And they continue to drive in a mad place because you do not make time to arrest them. Or, as they say, you do not have the capacity to arrest them. So if the government didn't have the capacity to arrest the insecurity, and it refuses for outsiders to come in to help, probably could be that the government actually enjoys what is going on, and so it could be said to be complicit in the actions. And that's why we think, despite what people say against the characterization, the characterizations are good. Let them stay there. Right. Let us work towards correcting the bad things that we have in the country. Denial will not make them go away.
Dr. Katch, because of time, this bill now is to go through the U.S. legislative process, and they'll debate on it. If this bill is assented to, Dr. Katch, with the power that the designation of country of particular concern gives to the U.S. government, do you have fears that the U.S. government might just be high-handed, or they may go over and above what, the provisions of those powers will be?
Well, You are asking a body that has agreed that there are crimes being committed. What about you? Have you come home to yourself to say, yes, these problems exist? If they do exist, what you didn't do is you start internally by trying to correct those problems.
No, Dr. Katch, I don't think you got me. I'm saying that this bill, once it goes through the U.S. legislative process and it is assented to, do you have fears about what the provisions of this law will be? I mean, it said there that the U.S. will have powers, you know, on policy and to take actions, punitive measures on some of these actors in Nigeria. You've seen some of the people who have been named. Do you think that they're going to go beyond the reach of their powers in Nigeria?
No. They simply tell you when the laws are made, they are U.S. laws. And the U.S. know how to do that. They don't need to come to Nigeria to implement it. They will simply target investments, money, and other assets belonging to those people across the world, spread their names, and wherever their names are seen, the 12 governors who did embrace Sharia. So it's not just Kwankwaso's name. In that issue of Sharia, you will see Kwankwaso's name. Yeah, you will see the other people who were governors in the states that embraced Sharia. They will also come onto that punitive action. Their assets will be targeted. Their monies will be frozen wherever it is. So I don't think it has nothing to do with Nigeria. It is also not for you to, say this or say that. Though whoever feels that those sanctions are bad, it should then stop doing what those people are doing.
All right.
Rescind Sharia. You can hear there are people now saying, called the Muslim Rights Group or even the Sharia Council Group. All those people go about spreading hate. Their name will ultimately make the list.
All right.
So,
Dr. Katch,
everybody who is part of this will get punished.
Right. We'll go on a quick break right now. Please stay with us. A very quick break. When we return, let's talk some politics. Stay with us. All right, let's talk some politics. And because on Tuesday, and it was linked, our former Vice President Atiku Abubakar was there as well. It was a closed-door meeting, and many persons were